How do you want to start? I have no start. I don't even know what we wanted to do.
Guys, I've been gone for like 2 months, and this has fallen apart. This has fallen apart.
It's not falling apart.
It
How's
has.
it not falling apart? We did the Swiss Chalet thing.
The Swiss Chalet thing's excellent.
Is it? Look into your heart. Look into your heart, Zain, and ask yourself if it was an excellent bit.
I mean, sure, someone said that it was, they couldn't believe that 10 minutes in we were still talking about Swiss Chalet, but I mean...
How many people do you think had passed away right after enjoying a quarter chicken dinner, Cory?
I mean, we all die a little bit.
Please split between white meat and dark meat.
I'm a vegetarian.
I'm your math. I'm not. I don't care about
the math. Okay.
Oh my God, it's always.
It's all about me
already.
Yeah,
we have. I think we've just eased into the show. How are you, gentlemen? It's been a minute.
Carter.
Kate, great to see you, Cory.
Is it?
It really is.
Oh,
yeah.
It's great to see. So the show started, huh?
Do you have anything else? Do you have any words after it's great to see? It seems like it's just running through the motions at this point.
He's just phoning it in.
Yeah, no, it just seems.
I don't get a paycheck for this anymore. Like, I used to be paid to deal with you two. I don't get paid for this anymore.
I know, 50% raise is the way I put it.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Carter, do we want to explain what this is?
Do we want to explain anything? Like, here we are. Like, it's been so long. There are listeners who have never heard me on the show before, I bet. That's exciting. It's exciting.
Has it been that long?
There have been new patrons that have arrived.
Wow.
In the post-Cory Hogan era.
Amazing.
This is true. And it's sending a message.
Hogan era.
There was a message that was sent because of that. Carter, this is the Ministry of Podcasts. Is that what we're titling the show?
This is the Ministry of Podcasts.
And I've been told Cory is not the minister. You are the minister.
I am the Minister
You're the
of
Minister
Podcasts.
of Podcasts? Okay.
Due to certain legal ramifications and the potential of Cory losing his job.
So,
Carter, you are the Minister of Podcasts. Just want to make sure everyone is aware that you are the Minister of Podcasts.
Yeah, I'm the Minister of Podcasts.
You're the Minister of Podcasts in question in this, the pod within a pod, Ministry of Podcasts. Is that?
Ministry of Podcasts. Okay. That is correct. Cory, I should also mention, this podcast is sponsored. We actually have found a sponsor for our first.
It's not.
By Flair Airlines.
It's so not.
The official Ministry of Transportation.
So
that's their new slogan. They have told us.
I am a guest on this shit show. And my
most
slim conditions. My slim conditions.
Two conditions, really.
Two conditions. Had to be public, and there couldn't be advertising on it. Those were my two conditions. I'm taking money out of your pocket for this podcast.
Who would you in your caucus assign to be the Minister of Transport if it was Flair Airlines?
Well, probably our current Minister of Transport.
The good answer, Carter. He's on his game.
He's so good.
We thought we could trick him at 9 p.m. at night.
Set up.
Carter, who wrote that George Shahal letter, by the way?
Oh, yeah. That was you, right?
That was not me.
I feel like it was you. I mean,
Carter,
come on. We're in the circle of trust now. Yeah.
Cory, this is our chance to catch up with you.
Yeah, that's nice.
For you to criticize the show. You've come in hot. You've come in hot.
I don't feel like we can call, to be honest. It doesn't feel like something we can do.
No,
I
it doesn't feel like
more heavily these days. That's true.
Yeah.
And I barely write. So we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Cory, what other criticisms do you have while you've been gone? We have started the last meal at swiss.ca, which is getting some incredible anecdotes, some incredible math. We've got spreadsheets being sent to us. Now, for those that are not aware, we're trying to figure out how many last meals have been had at Swiss Chalet. There have been two people who have confused last meal at Swiss as being how many people have gotten food poisoning from Swiss Chalet and have subsequently passed because of Swiss Chalet.
Wow.
That is not what we are asking.
I'm
glad I'm not an owner of this litigious show that you guys have now.
We're trying to do the math. Swiss Chalet is a Canadian institution. You can see by my hat.
It is.
Cory, do you want to add in your guess of how many people had their last meal at Swiss Chalet since its founding in the 1950s?
Sure, you bet, Zain. All of them.
Explain that to me.
No, I mean, that's how we all go. People don't really realize it. It's not something we talk about. End of life is awkward.
What I like is that it's a very QP. It's a very pithy QP answer, right? You don't have to substitute.
35 seconds.
You don't have to add anything.
I can answer everything in 35 seconds.
You never could answer anything in 35 seconds. We've taken.
Has that been the hardest thing to adjust to?
Yeah, I don't really answer questions in QP because
no, but I mean, if you were to answer a question.
Yeah, like Carter, you're a minister.
I can imagine it would be hard to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a minister, I'm finding it tricky.
But you do answer questions in the House anytime you make a speech. Like, so the difference between like the House of Commons and at least the provincial legislatures I've worked with and around, is there's a lot more interaction. Like it's a bigger show. There's just more going on. Like you got to mix it up a little more. You got to mix
there's
it
still
up.
one person talking and the other people listening, right?
I don't think any of us listen ever. That's my early assessment
That's
of
a
it.
bold thing to admit this early in
Well,
your
there's
in your
Hansard. We can
career.
read it afterwards. See if we missed
Oh,
anything.
okay. Yeah, see if you missed anything.
Yeah.
Heckle.
So
Heckle.
Hogan,
Yeah.
there's so much about your life that now interests us when in the past you
good.
were the least interesting person on the show.
Yeah.
Carter, so can we just run through a couple things I'm interested in, maybe a couple things you're interested in?
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
kinda
let's
get
do
the
that.
sense. So last time you were on the show, correct me if I'm wrong, we were doing the debrief of how you won, what that looked like, what election that looked like.
Yeah,
And then-
MP elect.
Walk us through the whirlwind from there. Is there vetting? Is there orientation? I assume there is.
Uh-huh.
Take us to, like, you went to Rome, you were named a Parliamentary. Like,
go to
what the
Rome.
fuck is going
Yeah.
on, Cory?
Man,
Like, give us
life
give us
is
a sense.
crazy, huh?
That's so weird.
Look, in a funny way, I think when you're looking at it from the outside, you think, man, why does it take so long for Parliament to get back? It was about a month, right?
Yeah.
It was not enough time in many ways. Like many of us were still working in the hallways as the session had begun, and we didn't have our constituency offices set up and all of that. There's a lot that goes into onboarding a new MP and setting up a new parliament. I guess that's the one thing I would really underline here, because you've got to wait until the results are verified, and then they reach out to you to start orientation. And that orientation isn't one meeting. It's a series of meetings over the next couple of weeks, everything from how to set up a constituency office to how committees work and everything in between. There's lots of orientation. You got to go to Ottawa for it. You got to be sworn in at some point. And while this is all going on, that's let's call it machinery of government stuff. There's also things going on with your party. Like a cabinet is being created. There are activities that go into that. There is the first caucus meeting. There is meeting your colleagues for the first time. I had a kind of weird meeting my colleagues, because the colleagues I met for the first time that I didn't already know as MPs, I met in Rome, as part of the delegation to Rome.
Like on the plane?
Yeah, well, in the terminal before getting on the plane in some cases, and it's where I met Jamie Maloney, who became our caucus chair, for example. It's where I met Jaime Batiste, who is one of my Parliament besties now. He's a guy I got to become friends with pretty quickly. And feel bad that I mispronounced his name now when we go back to those leadership ones all those
Do you
years
really
ago.
feel bad, or is
Nah,
that just...
it's okay.
Okay, you're
I'll get
through
on.
it already.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to find a clip of you pronouncing it wrong.
No,
We would never go back.
I want, there's people who've done this before. Jamie did this back in 2025.
We would never do that.
Oh, I mean, that's
it's
too
not
much
like
work.
it's not like our sponsor.
It is a lot
Flair
of work.
Airlines
The
hasn't
one
given
thing
us
is,
the
it is a
production.
lot of work. It is a
Yeah,
lot of
Flair-
work. So
Flair
I don't
Airlines
We got a
feel
feel
producer
given us-
now.
Yeah, we do.
got a
No,
producer.
Thanks, our
you
friends
get to
at
meet.
Flair.
You get to meet. I got to meet many great people, and it was kind of an interesting time to do it. And they were kind of laughing, because they're like, "This is not what the job normally is. Enjoy it. This is never happened to any of us before." And that just adds to the volume of stuff that is weighing on you as you're also trying to wind up your past life. Like I had to formally quit as a vice president at the University of Calgary. I had to adjust, everything. Lori, my wife, left her job because all of a sudden our schedules are just totally crazy. Like it's a lot going on. And then boom, you're in session. And that is just madness from start to finish. Like just madness from start to finish. I would describe it as very full days, like 7:30, 8 a.m. in the morning until midnight every night, between the various things you have to do, including sometimes being in the house to midnight. And it's a lot, right? It's not even like I'm saying it's like super complicated, and I'm not saying it requires all of your brain power all of the time. It's a lot. It's always on. And when you're a new MP, you're also trying to figure out the unwritten rules of the place at the same time.
Gardner, what are you interested in? And while you think there's one question that everyone cares about, which I'm going to ask Cory right now. Cory, how many of your colleagues are fans of the pod, and have you kept it running with?
A few. Like it's more than
take a few.
more than
Carter, we'll
zero.
take a few.
Yeah, I
We'll
would say more than a dozen even have like. I've had colleagues come up and be like, "Hey, can I be on the pod? Oh, hey, I love the pod. Hey, I used to listen, but that Zain guy's intolerable. Whatever.
The regular stuff.
Regular
Feedback.
stuff you hear all of the
Regular
time.
feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are, but they're definitely going to have their last meal at Swiss. Okay. That's all I know about them. Okay.
It's funny. And a lot of the staff listened to the podcast too. Quite a few people came up to me and said, "Hey man, never miss the pod. Never miss it. Gone downhill since you left." I think they were lying about the second part. I think that was more to make me feel better, but
that's hurtful. Shannon's going to be really upset.
Yeah, no, she should.
No,
be.
for sure. That is a personal and direct insult to her.
Yeah,
Carter and I have very thick skin. Carter, what are you wondering about?
We don't feel anything anymore.
Carter, there's so much other shit on the board. I forgot that the king was here. Cory's also
the king was here.
We haven't gone to any of that.
The throne speech.
A bunch of fucking issues. You want to talk about that?
No, the throne. So, king comes. There's a throne speech.
Yeah,
it's in all the newspapers, right? But
we saw that.
One of the interesting things about the throne speech is he gives it in the Senate, and then in the House of Commons we have to take it up, and there's a motion moved to discuss the throne speech. Somebody has to move that motion, and I was the guy who got to move that motion. So it's kind of one of these things that's like it's a nice little thing to do inside Parliament. I don't think anybody in the rest of Canada knows or cares that I'm the guy who moved the throne speech motion, but the long and the short of it is it means I've got to give a 20-minute speech, which is basically rehashing the throne speech with a couple of comments at the top about, my family and, the riding and all of that.
Carter and I, and
Yeah, of course. A lot of content on you guys. A lot of content.
Thanks for the shout-outs. We've really appreciated them.
And then I have to take 10 minutes of questions from the House on the throne speech, which basically means on anything, because the throne speech is obviously or what's not in the throne speech and why isn't it in the throne speech, right? And so, it's like the first thing that happens in the House. I have to stand up, and I've never been there for a sitting in the House. It's a full House, and you got to do it. It's kind of a fun thing.
Did you wear adult diapers, or were you able to, not shit yourself?
No, me. I'm like, if I have a superpower, it's that I am unbothered. Like, things don't really bother me. It gets me in trouble as much as it helps me, but it wasn't like bad in that sense. It was a lot of fun.
This is a good question Carter asked about the adult diapers. Cory, are you still wearing sneakers? Are you still keeping that top button undone? This is
great
very
question.
Important. This is. I feel like the sartorial aspect of being a member of Parliament, Parliamentary Secretary Cory Hogan, is very important for us to understand. Are you keeping it real, or have you sold out?
Yeah, so let's talk. So first off, the top button undone. Yeah, 100%. No, I still keep it undone.
No,
yeah, for sure. Of course I do. Like, what kind of animal am I? There is a dress code in the House. The dress code is, in order to kind of be there, you need to wear a jacket. And in order to speak or vote, you need to wear a tie. So, or I think maybe you can vote if you just have a jacket on. Anyways, you can't speak without a tie, that's for sure. So men have to wear a jacket and a tie in the House of Commons. It's kind of old school like that. But to get to the second part of your question, Zain, there's no dress code for below your jacket and tie.
Yeah, there isn't.
No, I mean, most of the time I'm wearing sneakers in the House. I will say, because I went to the Pope's inaugural Mass, and I thought, I can't go to St. Peter's Square wearing sneakers to, the inaugural Mass. I did buy my first pair of dress shoes in, decades. And so I do own a pair, and I do sometimes wear them as well, just to try to get a little value out of them. But yeah, mostly sneakers.
They live in Ottawa, right? You don't even bring them back?
Yeah, I mean, why would I? It would be...
Yeah, that's good.
That's not a Calgary Cory thing.
Will you be wearing cowboy boots when we get to the Stampede?
No, I'll never. I mean, listen, if you own cowboy boots and you've broken them in, good for you.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. But why would you do that to yourself?
Because we like the pain. That's why we're in Calgary. Calgary is about pain. And this is one of the things that comes along with that pain. You have to wear cowboy boots. We have to wear really warm shirts in the summer.
You do got to wear the warm shirts.
And the super heavy jeans.
Yeah.
I agree. We're about separatism.
And then a hat that makes your head sweat.
No, the blood flow from your body to your feet, Cory. That's what we're... Yeah, you see the save there? You
That's
see
nice.
that?
I did what you did there was nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by what has happened. So what happened in the House that you were the most surprised by as a newly elected member of Parliament?
It's people ask that a lot. There's versions of that question I get asked by people on the daily.
So I'm a simpleton.
You're simple man with a simple question.
Okay, that's good to know.
The basic elevator talk. I was hoping you'd elevate it on this podcast, but
I have elevated it. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So far,
your brain has attried without my presence. I do understand.
I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's
can I just
totally true.
mark this timestamp at the 15-minute mark? Cory's told a constituent that his brain has atrophied. Just want to make sure that's on the record.
But I didn't vote for him. I mean, let's be clear.
Well, that tracks. That tracks. What surprised me the most, obviously, this is a world that's not foreign to me. Like, I was aware of it. Although I have said to many people, I think including you guys, like, geez, I probably should have paid more attention when my friends were doing these things.
Yeah.
I never cared about the House procedural stuff. Like, it was never my thing. It was never something that interested. I'll be honest, it still doesn't particularly interest me. It's just part of the job. But the thing that surprised me most is that it is such a weird combination. The moments that you think are the big moments are not the big moments, and the big moments are ones that I think would otherwise like kind of pass and not think about it. Like, you would think like the first time you vote, that's like a big moment, right? Like, it's the first time I vote in the House. I didn't really know what the hell was going on. I couldn't really hear what the clerks were saying. I was watching. People are standing up. I'm trying to figure out, is it time for me to stand up? Oh, no, that guy's not standing up yet. Why isn't he standing up? Is he supposed to stand up? And just sort of watching it and being like low-key bewildered, and then just being there and like, oh, they're nodding. Am I supposed to nod? Are you required to nod? That person didn't nod before they sat down. How does this work? Because nobody fucking tells you those things.
So they don't tell you that in orientation. That was
no. And so then I vote and I sit down and I move on with my life and just go, well, that was a thing that happened. Recorded divisions.
I think I voted. Yeah.
Yeah, they're an interesting thing. Meanwhile, like, you'll be sitting there kind of candidly bored out of your mind 6 hours into a debate. Oh, and by the way, we got to talk about debates in a minute here. But you'll be like 6 hours into a debate and you're like staring at the ceiling, counting the panes of glass, and then it just sort of like washes over you. You're like, holy shit, I'm one of the 343 people who makes laws for this country. And like that's the moment that hits you, right? Like, it's like
I should pay attention.
Well, sort of, but as much as anything, it's like you have a moment to like soak it in, because like you've moved past the moments where you're busy. And so I think that also it is like any other job in that there's like this unwritten code of how everything works. I don't mean that in like it's like this weird like clubby thing. It's more like it's not written down like I remember, early on they're talking about, and you only have to be here if you're on House duty. Only a quarter of the MPs are in the House, or even next to the chamber really all of the time, and you're sitting there and you'll talk about it for a bit and you'll be like, how do I find out if I'm on House duty? Like nobody tells you those
Google
things.
Doc that they send you.
Well, and then they're like, oh, no, we'll send an email, right? And then the email has like 1, 2, 3, 4 as the groups, but they're not even, anyways, it's very sensible once you know what it is, but it's all very bewildering if you've never done it before. So you're doing a lot of that the first little bit.
Is part of you happy that your first sort of sitting in the House was so soon after getting elected? Like, you just were thrown into it right away, and like that this is now. It's, of course, you're back in Calgary. It's summer. You're going to be doing a bunch of events. You're going to be traveling the country, I assume. But are you happy that they not got that out of the way, but it happened so quickly? Then rather than having to wait till the fall, for example, to go to Ottawa and do all.
I don't think that I'd want to wait till the fall. I do think we could have used a little bit more time for, look, I get why. We're a country that's got a lot of things to do. We're in a hurry. We've got to do things fast. That's what the Prime Minister said. But, it's kind of an interesting stress where you're sitting there in Ottawa and you're doing what you're supposed to do in Ottawa, and you don't have your Calgary constituency set up yet. And you're just like, Jesus, I really wish I had time to hire staff and set up the office and open the office. And again, there's nuts and bolts. You've got to get the internet provider in, and then you've got to get the House of Commons IT people to come in and
talk about this. How does this actually work? Do you have to do that? Do you get staff on day one? Do you have one person right away?
No, you don't have staff. You have to hire these people.
Every single one.
Yeah, and I didn't have the ability to hire people until, I don't know, like 4 weeks in, which is basically just as soon as I'm supposed to go to Ottawa. So, and you don't just hire people. They've got to go through security clearances. So I have a fellow who works for me who worked for George Shahal. So he was fairly fast to onboard. Not the case with others, right? And you just don't have all of the levers available to you yet. I mean, a very funny thing. It's June 30th today, right?
Yep.
If you're a new MP, our first paycheck was today. We didn't get paid until today. And so, like, everything, you just wish there was a little bit more time to get your feet under you and get some of those nuts and bolts, because you're worried about letting down constituents as much as anything. Like, emails are just going to an inbox that you don't have access to for a few weeks,
Yeah.
that your staff doesn't have access to for a few weeks after that. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, I'm trying not to fuck it up on my first month on the job. But look, we got stuff to do. We had to run. We had to hurry. And, there are consequences to that.
What did it feel? What was it like to actually do some of that stuff? Like when you're passing those bills, C5 comes to mind.
Yeah.
What does that feel like when, the Conservatives come and join you in passing the bill and immediately think, did I just do something horribly wrong?
No.
Shannon Stubbs agrees with me. That's a terrible situation. I mean, that's got to be going through your head.
Yeah, and give a very
Did she just
quotable,
agree?
pitty
Oh,
answer
my
that can
God.
be also circulated amongst media. Go ahead.
Put into a clip. No. I think that the reality of the House is, so a colleague of mine who I won't name because I'm not sure if he'd want to be attributed to it. I just suffice to say it wasn't mine. We finished like a late night of voting. It was like midnight. We get to leave.
Yeah.
And, he says as we're walking out, because we're then all leaving at the same time because you're all there to vote if you're like there
Right.
to vote, right? There is remote voting, but most of the people were in the House. And so we pour out of the chamber into our lobbies that are on each side of the chamber. And then we pour out of the lobbies instantly, like to the stairs, and we all go down and we sort of all go down together, right?
Yeah.
And as we're walking over, he says, Jesus, it's like that old Warner Brothers cartoon where it's like we're beating the shit out of each other in the house all day. And then we're out, do, see you tomorrow, Sam. And we just sort of walk out. And there's a bit of that. Like what you don't catch on the cameras and or in the audio is like we're chatting with each other. We certainly talk to each other in the halls. My Conservative colleagues are very nice to me on the airplane, right? Like there is a certain theater element to it. And there's jokes, and some of the jokes are pretty funny. Like, so on C5, one of the people who didn't vote for at least one of the motions, I can't remember if he voted in the final thing, was Nate Erskine-Smith, Liberal MP. And, Chris, the whip for the Conservatives, is like, chirping across the way. He's like, Jesus, we're more reliable votes for your guys' bill than your party are. What's going on over there? And it's like, that's pretty funny. I can deal with that. That's kind of fun. And so... Yeah, I mean, it is one of the things I hate most about it, if I'm being candid, but it is also, it makes me think maybe there's a foundation for more constructive working relationships that, like, it's not as shitty as it sometimes appears. And so, like, if you can find common ground and you can work with people, and I just don't think the Conservatives are that interested in voting against stuff like that.
The naivete is just on display.
I know.
The
right?
rookie MP.
The rookie MP.
The rookie MP.
happy.
So good.
They're all friends. There's inside jokes card. It's like summer camp.
There's it's summer camp for grown-ups.
Summer camp. Well, yeah. Summer camp that you're not invited to.
Who's your camp counselor? Is it Patch?
I don't know. I don't get the reference. Like, who's my... is a camp counselor somebody who's a colleague
which
of mine?
film? Is this Dave?
No,
Is it
someone
the-
who's
is it the
taking care
clerk?
of you while you're there. Like, does someone take care of you while you're in Ottawa?
No,
like,
nobody
we've
takes
seen
care of
you
me.
try and live. How do you eat when you're in Ottawa?
Well, I
like,
almost
how do
That's
you
a
get
really good
fed?
question because we
I
know
almost
how you
never do.
have eaten.
Yeah, I almost never
past.
do. It's just, it is, well, look, I mean, the reality is those are things you kind of have to watch when you're an MP because it's a weird combination of there's food everywhere at events, but unless you actually are consciously sitting down to eat, you might also just forget to eat for a day too. So
here,
people in Ottawa tend to go one of two ways. They'll like gain 15 pounds or lose 15 pounds, like in their first kind of session. So just
which
gotta
was
watch
you?
it.
Which did you
I'm
do?
more the lose, actually. Like, the thing is, like, for me, food is so disassociated from hunger. I don't know why or how. It's not a good thing, but, like, when I'm at my house and there's all the candy my kids have around and there's all of the food in the world, like, I'll just kind of randomly eat. But when I'm in Ottawa and it actually takes, like, conscious effort to go get a meal, I'll just as much as not, just be like, I'll get it later. And then later is a meal
This isn't
later.
describing a healthy relationship with food.
It's not. I know. It's something to work on. We
Yeah,
all
this is
have
a question
things to work
Carter
on.
wants to ask is how many Wendy's burgers sub the patty with fries in the middle have we had so far? Over under on
That's
3.
really nice.
Over under on 3.
I don't know where the Wendy's is, so that's kind of somewhat saved me.
Fucking lie. It's an over, Carter. We know it's an over.
Yeah, we know it.
That's a
we know
simple.
it for
That's
sure.
a simple skip order, Cory.
Hey.
You can figure that out.
Hey, I mentioned I want to talk a bit about debates, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why is he trying to redirect? We're asking the
I don't
hard-hitting
know.
questions
I-
about.
Yeah.
We didn't even
shoes.
bring up Flair Airlines.
You know,
This
No,
is
we
weird.
not-
we
haven't
we
brought
were
it up.
one
Yeah.
step away from Swiss Chalet, and I veered. I fucking zagged,
Okay.
man. I didn't want to go there.
What do you have against Swiss Chalet?
Nothing.
now here we go.
It's fine. Yeah, Swiss Chalet is fine. It's fine. If it's your thing, I think that's good for you. But
I did a whole campaign on Swiss
Does not
Chalet.
sound
wow.
positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did
Did not die.
Yes.
yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
From both of you. That
Talk
was
about
good.
debates, and then there's two things I actually want to get into process-wise that I find interesting. Your trip to Rome, and then your process for the Parlsec. How did that
Yes.
come about, and how did you hear it? So talk to us about debates.
Sure. Well, debates kind of also leads into me wanting to chat about QP for a heartbeat here.
Yeah.
So one of the things there's time for debates. I don't, like I said, like the whole parliamentary procedure is not my jam, but long story short is there's you get 20-minute blocks, right? Where it's a 20-minute speech and then 10 minutes of questions from the rest of the House, rotating through all of the parties. But the 20-minute block can be split, become 2 10-minute blocks or whatnot. But one of the things that happens in a debate pretty quickly is, well, let me put it this way. If you have something to say on a bill, you're not going to have any trouble saying it. Like, you just go to like the person who's managing your lobby and you're like, hey, can I get on the speakers list either for today or tomorrow or whatever it is? I want to go. I have a few things to say. They'll be like, yeah, fucking great. Because most of the time they're trying to fill that time and sustain the House. And what's happening is they're rotating through like liberal, conservative, block, liberal, conservative, liberal, conservative, liberal, conservative, block, or some pattern like that, right?
Yeah.
And even though there's not necessarily something new to add to the conversation, nobody wants to give up their part of the conversation, because if a liberal's not there to do it, it's just going to go on to the conservative, right? And then it's going to be a couple of those speakers.
Save some of their talking points.
Well,
or some of their
and
thing.
But no, Zain, because we don't save it. We just repeat them. We repeat them in kind of different frames. And so a lot of the House does start to feel pretty repetitive. And you really take note of when it's somebody who stands up and gives a speech that's like, oh, this is coming from somewhere, right? Like, oh, they're speaking from personal experience. And, yeah, some of them is like really great. And you get this big extemporaneous speech or something like that, right? Because most of it is like the House leader has sent a speech and I'm reading the speech and I'm going to sit down and then there's questions. And, it's very pat and pro forma. Unfortunately so. Because I do think that like when people actually are leaning into it, it's really great. And I think truly, if you could manage to compress the debate just into those moments where people are saying the things that matter to them and that they want to say, I think the House of Commons would be fucking awesome. Like, it would be like people would watch it, right? Like, they would see interesting things, but there's just too much doldrums, too much repetition by and large. And to be fair, a lot of the time you don't even know it's repetition because you're not in the chamber. You know, you weren't there for the first 4 hours. You weren't on House duty. Now you are. Now you're going to make a speech. Blah blah blah. So that's number one. But that gets us to QP. So 2 p.m. Eastern every day. You've got 15 minutes of statements by members. It's like 1 minute like blast, like, oh, there's a chili cook-off in Rimouski and it's great. Best chili cook-off in the eastern part of Quebec, and I hope you'll all come out. Yeah, clap, 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 right? And then you get to QP. And what can I say about QP that hasn't really already been said? QP's the worst, guys. Like, it's just like, okay, I want to be fair to all sides here. So the opposition stands up and they ask the same question 15 different ways, 15 different flavors of angry and shitty. And, and they're staring at the camera and they're like this. And it's just like, 35-second sound bites that they're going to use for social media. And you could think, oh, shame on them. But then the government responses come and we give 35-second responses that have maybe passing like reflection to the question that was asked. And it's just like, why won't they stand with us and Canadians? It's like, it's just like the lowest nutrition value you could possibly get. And we do it 15 times. We'll give the same, non-answer 15 times. And they will give the same question they know the answer to 15 times. And none of us are like particularly like, I don't know. What can you say? Like, why do we do this? Like, you sit there. Oh, and then like the rest of us are sitting there like clapping madly like trained seals. Like, oh, it was great. The 15th time I heard that, it was fucking awesome.
Wait,
like, it's
did you stop yourself from clapping or cheering, or did you feel like you had to?
No, you kind of have. Listen, a couple things on that. One, you sort of do it because like sometimes your colleagues do a nice spin on it. But the other one is you want to make sure you have your teams back. Like, one of the things I think even on heckling, I would say, is like I was like, I will never heckle. I will never fucking heckle.
Yeah, this has been.
I was heckling within 2 weeks, right? Not all the time.
Did you,
I
did you
wasn't
have any
being
good trash
shitty.
talk?
But a little bit, right? But the reason you do it is to have your guys back. Like, because what happens is they're heckling your guy or gal, right, who's speaking.
Yeah.
And you're like, those fucking assholes, that's a friend of mine. That's a colleague of mine. And so you give it back to them, right? And so it ends up being very much a sports team thing and less about them and more about your team and letting your team know you have their back, right? It's different than you expect.
Who's the best heckler on your team?
Who's the best heckler on my team? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they'd want that praise, to be honest.
Come on, Hogan. Just give
who's a pretty good heckler is Yasser.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Yep.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, you didn't expect that.
I did not.
I was going to go somewhere else.
As the choice
Yeah.
for best or
Yeah,
quality.
I was thinking
quality
he was
heckler.
very polite. Yeah.
You know who's also
Pakistani
like
blood. It's just that Pakistani blood that we have, man. We fucking go hard in the paint. Actually, now I get it.
So Stephen
in the
McKinnon,
house.
also a pretty aggressive heckler sometimes.
Our colleague Steve McKinnon.
Yeah.
Okay.
House leader, government house
So
leader.
our colleague, Carter's ministerial
Yeah.
colleague, and then of course our former colleague and your colleague,
Yeah.
Cory. Talk to me about. So, I want to stay on the QP thing for a second because I don't want to just move to Rome and the Parlsec stuff, even though that interests me. Do you have an idea to make it better? Because it seems like you're like,
I do.
Yeah, I know you do.
Well, I do. Well, look, I kind of
Pitch
posted
us.
about this. All
Pitch
right.
us because you've done this for 3 weeks now. So
I clearly know how to
you've got
fix
the
it.
solutions.
I can
Yeah,
solve it
yeah.
now.
give us a solution.
So there's this thing that happens at the end of the sitting day, colloquially called the late show, right? If somebody feels that they're not satisfied with the question that they asked and the response they got in QP, they can then go and basically ask a long form version of that question and they get a long form response. So they get a 4-minute block for the question and you get a 4-minute block to respond. And then they get a 1-minute supplemental and you get 1 minute to respond. That nobody's around for it, because it's right at the end. So there's very few people in the house. The quality of that, even though that still has its problems, is so much better than the average quality of a QP exchange, right? I think you could do a version of QP at least once a week where somebody says, okay, I'm just in advance. It doesn't need to be a lot in advance, like an hour in advance. Just let them know the category so the minister knows who's up, can give some thought to what they're going to say. You get a much better response as a result, and you could have a more thoughtful exchange on an issue, and you could actually test somebody's knowledge of it. Because I'll tell you something, 35 seconds, you could say anything in 35 seconds. As a joke. So as a Parlsec, one of the things you have to do is answer if your minister's not in the house. And sometimes there's moments where you're looking around and you're like, is that minister there? Am I going to be up? I don't have a binder today. I don't know what to do. And some of my colleagues will be like, oh no, what if I have to go up? And I always say to them, I'm like, well, it's 35 seconds. You just say, Mr. Speaker, I can't believe. Let's start the clock, right? Mr. Speaker, I cannot even believe the member opposite would ask a question like that. This government is incredibly committed to Canadians, is incredibly committed to this country, and incredibly committed to equity and justice for all. I hope the members opposite will join us as we are trying to make Canada stronger, including a tax cut for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Why don't they get on board with that, Mr. Speaker? We've got Canadians' backs. Will they have Canadians' backs? And it's fucking over,
Hey, can I ask you a question? If you were so good at 35-second answers, what the fuck happened on this podcast?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Well, I think what I'm saying is sometimes they're not really answers, Stephen.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
But maybe 4 minutes. Maybe 4 minutes. That's enough for a Zain question and a Cory response.
I don't think it's enough time for a Zain question. I mean,
the same question.
let's not go crazy.
Yeah.
So
let's not go
Cory,
crazy.
3
here.
weeks in, you've got a fix for QP. What other things in Ottawa do you want to fix? What other potholes have you found that you want to
The weather.
fix?
It's humid. It's terrible. I just hate the weather in Ottawa. I cannot wait to get back to Calgary every week.
We'll save that thought. I want to talk about Ottawa and Alberta in a second near the end. Can we talk Rome? How did you get? Did you get a phone call? Be like, come to Rome. What's the plane like? What's this? What? Just what?
Yeah. So yes, I got a phone call.
Who makes that call?
Yeah, this is what I want to know.
So the formal you're invited phone call came from the Prime Minister's Western desk, or Prairies and North desk, right? And she says, hey, the Prime Minister would like to extend an invite to you as part of like the delegation to Rome. And you go, oh, okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you. And protocol is going to get a hold of you tomorrow. And you say, oh, very cool, right? Don't know at the time how many people are going. Don't know the itinerary. Don't know any of that stuff. Just know I've got to be at the right part of the Ottawa airport at, I don't know, I think it was 3:00 on Friday before. So that's sort of it. And then you get like an email that says, hey, you've got to show up here. And it's from the protocol office. And it says, these are the things we're going to do. Still don't know who's going with you, right? Like I didn't know who was going with you. And keep in mind, I'm new, right?
Yeah,
I didn't even know who was going with me when I was there in the terminal and all of the people were there. I'm like, I don't know who these people are.
I don't know who you are.
Yeah. So, there's... I didn't get a copy of the news release that listed all of the people. I basically read it on Global News. Like, I don't know, somebody had a version of it. And so, but nobody gave me a list of like who was with me or anything like that. I just had to figure it out as I was going. So you go, and it's an interesting thing because there are, of course, official duties you've got to do as part of that delegation. Yeah. You're not there very long.
Do you travel with the PM, Cory?
Yeah. You fly on the I called it the PM's plane to the PM, and he's like, no, it's the people's plane. So I'll do that I know, right? That guy, always on, that guy.
The worst. Yeah. Don't like that.
You'll be okay. No, so like, and
we'll
people
be
ask,
fine,
what's it like? What's it like? Well, it's like an airplane. It's just a regular airplane. There's a section at the front which has like the business class seats, like the pods. And then there's a section which I would call like premium economy. And then there's a section I would call economy. And they're not all full, right? In fact, there's lots of seats, tons of space between people. You get multiple seats all the time, but like, it's just a normal plane. You're just on a normal plane. And, then you get to Rome and,
But you haven't talked to us about the in-flight entertainment options, Cory. These are the things.
Well, so they had, it's like the last airplane in North America that still has the screen on the back, and you can watch like movies. Like there's like movies and radio and all of that. It seems to be like the Canadian Air Force has their own version of this and their own licenses. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the logistics of that one, but yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing that exists. And you land, and the PM and the PM chief of staff, and they're staying downtown near all of the other people, and the rest of us are staying near the airport. And we go and we go into Rome for like the various activities, like go to the ambassador's house, all of that stuff. But it's like there's things to do, but then there's like 8-hour blocks where it's like, well, how do you fill your time? And Rome's a great place to fill your time. It was great to get to meet some of my colleagues in that context, right?
That'd be fun.
Throw stuff into the Trevi fountain, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was interesting, and I'll break some news here on the strategists here.
Whoa,
yeah.
You mean the Ministry of Podcasts?
Oh, I'm right. Sorry,
yeah, that's right. Strategists always had the Ministry of Podcasts with their minister Stephen Carter.
Yeah, so we get to the mass, right? All of the delegations kind of come in one at a time through Rome. There's lights flashing. We get police escorts, all of that stuff, and we get there, and we have pretty good seats. We're the Canadian. We just happen, I guess, in Canada. There's the Americans have like their delegation ahead of us, and we're just like right behind them. The Italians are to our left. There's all sorts of people going on. We get there and we can't find our seats. We're looking around, and all of like the embassy staff and the protocol staff are confused. They're like, "Where are our seats? Can't find our seats." And so the ambassador to Italy, she says to myself and Jaime Batiste, like, "Well, you guys just go sit over there, like with the Italians, basically, right?" Mm-hmm. So we go and we sit in the middle of the Italian like parliament seats. And there's another fellow who's there, and they kind of kick him out pretty quick, but they don't kick us out yet. And so Jaime's like, if they ask if you're like a parliamentarian, just say C. That means yes here. It's fine. And so, we don't get kicked out, so we end up staying there. But what's happening where we were is they find out that the reason we can't find our seats is the Americans have taken off the Reserve for Canada signs and put Reserve for the USA on it because they're trying to get more space. Anyways.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, very much symbolic of the times, right? Anyways,
Oh my
our
God.
ambassador, tough as hell, she says, "I don't think so, gang." And they're like, "No, we need the seats." She's like, "These are our seats. These are not your seats. Sit down," she says to our delegation, and everyone sits down in it. But yeah,
What?
she was a little elbows up. And it all's well that ends well, and the Americans kind of said something. Apparently, I wasn't there.
This is our
Like
ambassador to the Vatican.
our ambassador to Italy.
To Italy.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
got
we
it.
have an ambassador to the Vatican and an ambassador to Italy, of course. And so,
Yeah.
the Americans begrudgingly like, "Oh, I guess you guys can have them." And I guess we were like, "No, they're our seats. We have them because they're our seats." So, but
That's the best
We have our
51st
water,
state
'cause it's
metaphor
our water.
fucking shit I've
Yeah.
ever heard.
yeah, it was what I'm saying. It was quite an interesting metaphor. But anyways, Jaime and I never made it back there. We were sitting amongst the Italians the whole time, and then we
That would have been great.
hung out. We did a full Latin mass, sitting in the 7th row, which is like a lot closer than I ever sit at mass at home. Right? I was observing that at one point to myself. I'm like, my God, like I don't sit this close in church at home. Like I'm a back row guy, right? And I'm sitting here in the Vatican. It was very wild. It was quite interesting, quite humbling. So, yeah, that was Rome.
Carter, follow us
That's
for
very
our
cool.
dear friend, Mr. Cory Hogan. I want to talk about the Pearl Sec thing. We got to maybe let him go.
Well, let's do. Well, I want you do the Parlsec thing, and then I want to talk
got more
about
stuff? Okay.
something coming up, because the stuff coming up is the most interesting.
Oh, is it?
Actually, I agree with that too.
Ooh.
Pearl Sec. Carter and I made cakes. We made multiple cakes for you.
yeah.
The
Thank you.
Pearl Sec one paid off.
That's great. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
yeah.
I'm
How
glad for the
did you
cake.
get that job? Talk to me about process. Talk to me about timing. Was this after the King's speech? Was this
Yeah,
before?
yeah.
It was after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Walk us through this.
All right. Well, like obviously, I don't know how conversations were unfolding behind the scenes.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think it's pretty safe to say at this particular moment, if I'm saying something I shouldn't, oops, my bad, PCO, sorry about that. But I got a call not too soon after the election, just essentially to get my permission to be vetted, right? Where I have to, you fill out a form and then they can go through your financials and all of that stuff. And then you have an interview with somebody. And in the interview, they sort of say like this is, they don't tell you why at the start, but you'd have to be an idiot not to kind of know that it's like for an additional position. But they do say they're like, well, this is for like, consideration for ministers or parliamentary secretaries. Like it's always like that was like part of the framing off the top. Like, so I don't know what their thinking was like from day one, and that the vetting is not about like your qualities. It's not about what you're good at. It's like, let's go through your life about everything that could be bad, right? Like let's just figure it out. They're like, how's your marriage? Drug use? You use drugs? Like stuff like that. Like,
Is
they go
is
through
that
it all.
different than the candidate vetting you had, like in terms of intensity and timing, or
Well, so they're sitting there and they actually have my candidate vetting as well, like as
Okay,
sort of a
okay.
foundation for questions they're going to ask you and the notes that are in there and all of that. But I would say it was certainly much more about kind of like my personal life. And, and then they throw out questions where like, why are they asking that? What do they know? Like, they'll be like somebody who'll be like listed as like I won't say which, but you have to list a bunch of relatives and they're like, how's that relative doing? And it's like of a list of like 20, they pick one and you're like, why the fuck they ask about that one? And like you start getting in almost your own head about that. But, so it's like, it's a little more intrusive like that. They say things like, what's the one thing you'd be like mortified if the prime minister found out about? Right. Or like you had to go tell them. And so
Was it the podcast?
it was definitely the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm really embarrassed about the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I would have gone with.
So you do that, and then you go, and then the cabinet comes out, and you're not in it, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, everyone wants to be in cabinet, right? So it's a bit of a downer, but it's not the biggest deal. I will say, like, there's not a better job in the world than being an MP. But because you're your own boss, and you get to do whatever you want, right? As long as you keep voting with the way.
As long as you vote with the way you're supposed
and you
to
clap
vote
at the
and
right time.
attend how
Keep
the
it in
house
35 seconds.
And you got to clap at the right time. Well, and and of course you got to work for your people. But so anyways, that goes on, and then there's just at an early regional caucus meeting, we just get word like, oh, because I don't think anyone knew 100% there were going to be parlsecs, although I think there was like an assumption there'd be parliamentary secretaries. You just get a note like, oh, and parliamentary secretaries, that's going to be like within a week. It was not within a week. It took like 2 weeks, I think, probably from when we heard it was a week. But So that's going on. And then you just sort of go about your life. You don't hear anything about it except for kind of occasionally updates like, oh, it's going to be in the next couple of days or whatnot. And then I get a phone call. I get a phone call from Braden Cayley, who, many of us, I think all of us know, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he says basically like, on behalf of, the Prime Minister, is this something you'd be willing to do? Be Parlsec for, energy and natural resources? And I mean, I don't think there's an answer except yes, right? Like, I feel like you should have signaled much sooner if you weren't interested in a role like that, right? By the time they get to you. So you say yes, and then you do it. And like a lot of it, like, you don't know what the hell it is, like nobody tells you, okay, well, what do I got to do
next? Job
next?
description on the phone. Yeah.
You don't get anything like that. And of course, like, I know what a Parlsec is and I know what the rough job is, but like,
did you know there's going to be two of you in this?
I did. So they told me there'd be two. So
yeah.
like, I think it's fair to say that with the benefit of hindsight, I don't know if this was always the plan, but it was clear the plan for a while to say, okay, energy, natural resources, important file, kind of a national unity file at this point. So we've got Tim Hodgson, who's super smart deal maker, well known and well connected to Mark Carney, and then you get an Albertan and you get a Quebecer, and you say, okay, between the three of you, figure it out, because this is like kind of important stuff. And so, and Tim's a great guy to work with, and so's Cloud. We have a lot of fun. Cloud, by the way, is like former like IBM Canada president, like super smart guy too. He's the other Parlsec. And
so you're kind of the slow one?
I'm kind of the slow one.
You're
I
the
think when
only
you
vice
list them,
president. I think everyone else was a president.
everyone
or
was a
chair or
president.
something.
I was
Yeah.
just a vice president.
Yeah.
That's
true.
that's got to be a
Shit.
shift for
It's
you.
gotta
That is
hurt.
a problem. I hadn't thought about that.
This
Thank you
is
for
why
making me
that's-
feel bad.
This is why he's got to climb
worries.
up the ranks with
Yeah,
novel
gotta
ideas
climb
that are
that
change
greasy
QP.
pole about QP. Yeah.
So can I ask? So now I
Sure.
want to know what. So you're back in Calgary.
Yeah.
What everybody always assumes that you're not doing anything
Yeah.
because you're just back in Calgary. What is the average day looking like for Member of Parliament Cory Hogan, just getting his feet underneath him in Calgary? I would imagine that a lot of it's just planning your Stampede breakfast.
Well, I've done almost none of that, as you know. I think that was a leading question.
Yeah.
Look, so all of that office setup that we didn't get to do earlier, we're doing now.
Yeah.
And there are things like getting the first householder out. So that's the mailing that we do. There are creating the processes. It's creating like the metrics through which we measure ourselves. There's just scores of meetings of people that have backed up along the way that we've got to have. There are announcements, you're at the Green Line announcement, you're at the Lufthansa Technic announcement, you're...
Do you want to talk about the way you were wearing your hard hat in the
Yeah, there's some.
in the Green Line shovel thing?
an
It was
interesting-
fine. It was a fine...
It was not
It was
fine.
fine
It was-
wearing the hard hat.
It was
Do you wanna-
your hard hat looked really bad.
Do you want to talk about your expression in that ribbon cutting that we also saw? It was
Oh,
a
wow.
little bit too
Do you
tight.
want to know where my expression came from on that one?
Yeah, well, what were you
The
saying?
scissors were way sharper than I expected. It was like, holy shit. I feel like you could cut off a baby's arm with those scissors. You gotta be careful with those scissors. Yeah. I expected them to be more dull. They were not. It felt more like a guillotine, right? So I think that was...
Well, that's good. I'm glad. And you still get all your digits? You're okay?
So far,
Okay.
But it was my first ribbon cutting, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
We could tell.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did not look. You looked a little
as
bit.
it was a 12.
yeah. Well, because it was the first ribbon cutting, it was just really exciting.
How would you change ribbon cuttings, Cory? Now that you've done one.
Now that I've done one.
Now that you've
Yeah.
done one.
Now
What
that
do
I've
we
done
need
one.
to do differently about
I
ribbon
think the
cutting?
ribbons need a big bow, and they need like a focal point, like an accoutrement.
Actually, I kind of agree with him on that.
Yeah,
Keep going,
I'm
though.
not,
What-
I'm not disagreeing.
To that point, though, on The Office, can I ask, did you take, is it common practice to just take the spot that your predecessor, regardless of what party they are, had from like a
Yeah.
Gazette office perspective? And are you doing that?
So when you get the office, you get it for 3 months beyond the election, beyond when they vacate it. So I think for us, that time is up in August. We're going to have to make the decision pretty quick whether we stay there or we look for a different office.
Got
But
it.
I think right now I'm leaning towards different office, something that's a little more central in the constituency. This one is sort of right on the edge of the constituency in the Northwest, which worked for Len because Len lived up there, right? And so it was like kind of it was a sensible way for him to kind of organize his life. I would rather be sort of in the heart of the constituency. Doesn't even need to be where I live, but just a little bit more central.
Yeah. Can I ask what?
I mean, it's probably in Che, right? You'd want it in Che.
You know,
Should
there
probably
is at
be
least
in Che.
one location in Che that I was kind of looking at.
It needs
Yeah, okay,
it needs
that's
to
good.
have a Che flag. It needs to look at the bus bench needs to be invisible sight lines in the
Yeah,
office.
you always see it. Yeah,
You can always see the
Yeah,
bus
that
bench.
should be it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
What-
it is on 9th Avenue and Center. It's like that building, that one that's like 4 or 5 stories, just north of where our bus
Oh,
bench
yeah.
is.
Yeah. That's good.
Corey,
That's close to my house.
That's good.
I like that.
It's
do
exciting.
you want to talk about any
I can
of
visit.
the issues? Like we could talk more about
Yeah.
like, we could talk about more about like, what your first stampede is going to look like. I'm curious, like,
I'm really curious to hear about what his first Stampede's.
Okay,
I
let's
got
just talk
a lot
about
of
it.
events. Yeah.
Do you
How-
you're hosting one and you attend a shit ton? Is that pretty much
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Look, my last job required me to go to a lot of Stampede events too. I think last year I was 27 or 28, and I thought that was going to be like a pretty durable high score. I was at a lot of events. I think I'm at
Yeah.
40 and counting right now in my calendar. It is really one of those: go to this event for an hour, leave; go to the other event for an hour, leave; go to another event for an hour. At least through till like the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Any
The first week,
Calgarian
yeah.
knows like political stampede starts to quiet down like midway through the week, and then I've got just a few events scattered throughout, moving on to the weekend.
And how are you going to treat Zain and I when you see us at these events?
Yeah.
Like total strangers. Yeah.
Like total
Total
strangers.
strangers.
That's-
I've maybe seen your picture before on a like one of
Wanted
those. No, I was
poster
thinking more like
in the
the
post
bad check
office.
signs that you used to see at like
Oh, yeah,
bodegas.
that's nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Like one of those. Like, oh,
That's great.
that guy. I know
Probably
one
good
thing
that
about
you-
him, and it's not good. Yeah.
That's nice.
As CEO of the Cory Hogan Lobby Shop, which
Yeah.
is the business I have
Great.
started.
No, that's not. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that is not going to be a business that
Okay,
exists.
so, no, you can't tell me that.
Well, I mean, we can't talk about it,
You
right?
can't talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was competitive advantages and
Yeah,
things like
for
that.
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's probably best that we don't speak. That's true. Okay. The issues. Can I talk about what's happened in the last, is it 12 hours, 24 hours?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah. Why not?
Do you want to give us a sense? We've had this, what is it even called? This digital,
The digital
yeah, so we've
services tax or something
Yeah,
like
the
that.
digital
the
services tax. So,
has it been?
yeah. So is this the part of the show where like I
Defend the government.
Okay, got it.
Or,
Yeah.
or you make some career
Explain to
career
us why this
limiting
is a
moves.
good thing.
We find out together.
Okay.
You kind of talk about
Yeah.
this tax as you do about QP. It's fucking sucks,
Well, look,
guys.
I mean, I think that everybody knows QP is a challenge, right? I
Yeah.
don't think I'm
Thank you for
splitting
your
the atom
courageous
on that
stance.
one.
Yeah, thank you.
exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Can you extend it to this? Are you
Yeah.
willing to extend it to this?
Well, look, I mean, what can you say? It's an interest. Look, on Friday, Donald Trump decides that he's going to potentially blow up all negotiations and not negotiate with Canadians as long as the digital services tax exists. And the reason why it's, I guess, au courant is today was the day where all of these American companies were going to have to give, well, not just American, but like the American companies, money retroactive for a few different years, right? And he's like, if this happens, like all negotiations off. I think it's fair to say, as Canadians, we've known for a long time the digital service tax is not something that the Americans are particularly thrilled about. Like Joe Biden wasn't particularly thrilled about it. I think it's also fair to say we always sort of knew this was likely to be something that got mixed up in any kind of trade negotiation that occurred. That was going to be true of any government,
Yeah.
with any trade negotiation going on. So I think in some ways it was not like the hardest give for us, right? To say, okay, well, let's just keep things moving. It was going to be, something there as long as it sort of gets costed into the final deal. But I mean, I certainly understand why people look at it and say like, oh man, we gave the Americans another one. And, the U.S. president just demanded it and we did this thing for him. And I think, yeah, I mean, like a huge part of me hates that, right? Like doesn't want to do that. But like that's the kind of ego you sort of have to check when you're the government and you don't have the luxury of having. Like as a podcaster, I probably would have been railing against it. But realistically, we need a deal. Like I've been writing about this forever. Like in January, I was saying, look, no matter what you think of this current moment, and I think a lot of things about it, if you want to have a different economic future for Canada, one that is not as tied to the United States, one that perhaps is more integrated with Europe and Asia and Africa, right? That's going to require time and that's going to require money. So step one for any reorientation of our economy is minimizing the damage and eliminating the damage from this current moment we're in with the United States. And that was never going to be fun, right? And that was never going to be anything but pain, I think, for all parties involved. So that's where we
does it turn into an Alberta type situation where, the government of Alberta is unwilling to switch from the easy opportunity that is oil and gas, and as a result, they're stuck there, and we never move away from it? Do you see that, the government of Canada, the Canadian, excitement about doing deals with Europe and Africa and Asia? Do you think that starts to subside when we get another deal with the Americans? Will we still be this enthusiastic?
The diversification, will it happen if we stay on the same track?
Because we don't do it in Alberta.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I think that the overall public desire to do it will likely abate a bit, but I don't think this government's desire to reorient is going to abate. I think that the Prime Minister is pretty fixed on making sure that we have new trade deals and new trade relationships. He was in Europe this week, for new military partnerships. And I think that you're going to see a lot more of that, but it's kind of like step one, step two stuff, right? And so what I would say to anybody is, as much as it might be galling to find ourselves at this particular moment, we can't lose sight of the main objective here. And this is very much a game in progress. There are steps going on behind the scenes. There are steps going on that even I am not privy to, right, as a caucus member, right, where all of this is going on. And you're just going to have to sort of, well, my ask is, I guess, assess it on the full body of work, not the individual moment within it. A month from now, 2 months from now, where are we in terms of a trade deal? Assess that overall bundle rather than assessing the individual thrusts and parries of a very erratic U.S. president who often throws bombs into the discussion that frankly he knows he didn't need to throw in. It would have been a moment of conversation about this anyhow. It would likely have been part of any deal anyhow. But he likes the theatrics of it. He likes to change the channel. And, it's not really any way that, in my opinion, you should run a country, just random tweets on a Friday. But, hey, Americans picked him and he's running that country. So we sort of have to... We have to kind of deal with it. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to measure it by the full body of work, not the individual plays.
Carter, you seem skeptical. I'll let you follow up. As the minister.
Yeah, you do look skeptical.
I am skeptical. I think that it's easy to talk about these
you're
things.
the minister, man.
Yeah, I know. And this is why I'm concerned. I've been talking to the deputy minister, and I feel like we don't have the House behind us. My question about Alberta, I think, is about the weakness of government, right? Government, because we tend to follow where the people wanted to go. In 3 years or 2 years or a year, we may have completely different directionality from the government, from the people, and the government may not have the opportunity to continue with these big bold dreams. I mean, a big bold dream was announced when we went to a commitment of 5% of GDP towards military spending, which strikes me as a near impossibility for a country that was struggling to get to 2%.
We're here now.
Impossible.
Pardon me? We're at 2% now. We will be this year.
We're kind of at 2% now.
Look,
we're kind of there.
Here's what listen. Can I ask you guys a question? Do you know anybody?
You most certainly can.
Setting aside my family, you know anybody who's gone to Tokyo recently?
Lots of people.
Just your family.
Lots of people. And
because of the direct flight, I assume.
Because of the direct flight. I believe in a few things, and one of the things I believe in is markets. And government has the ability to set conditions that will then allow people to be rational actors and choose things that they wouldn't have chosen before those frameworks were in place. And so when you talk about oil and gas in Alberta, I hear you, Stephen. But I think one of the reasons why the Alberta, you call it easy money. I don't agree with that assessment, but I would say one of the reasons is that there's just no government will there, and the government hasn't incentivized some of these things that you're talking about. But you have federally a government that will incentivize these things, that will make those trade deals, and ultimately the market will then shift. Once those conditions are there and people can make a pile of money in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa, things will shift. That's just economics, and I think that you shouldn't underestimate the power of a government that's hell-bent on doing something.
Well, I certainly underestimate the government of Alberta and its willingness to drive us straight into a ditch. So there you go.
Okay.
I mean, I know.
Cory, this is where you get to fill in the space
Yeah.
there. That he
Do you want to add anything about Danielle Smith and her
Yeah,
government?
you want to talk about that?
All right. Let's move on. Didn't love the surveys. I'll say that. Didn't love those surveys. Yeah.
No.
The Alberta
not your
Next
favorite
survey.
thing?
Oh my God. Like terrible survey design breaks
Do we
all
want to
of the
ask?
rules.
Do we want to ask Dr. Trevor Toome what the hell he's up to, and Adam Legg?
My
I mean,
former
some
colleague.
real questions there. Real questions.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll save that for a show that
that
Cory's
sounds like
on.
a mainline strategist episode.
That does,
doesn't
Carter.
sound like
Carter,
ministry
as the minister,
podcasts.
you of course get to ask the final question, but I've got the penultimate question.
Yeah,
Is
is
that-
it
Yeah, you asked the
question?
penultimate
Okay.
question.
Cory,
I'll ask the-
how long have you been doing this? How long have you been in the Ottawa bubble now? You've just come back from it, but how long was it?
I mean, I don't know. It feels like
5
a
weeks?
question that there's not a good answer to, because if I give a number, I'm
No.
admitting I'm in the Ottawa. Yeah.
No,
Look,
that's not even the question. The question is this: what's the most Ottawa thing you have done so far? Kind of like your pinch me moment when you're like, I'm one of these 300 plus legislators
Yeah.
that get to create law. What's the most Ottawa thing that you've done so far that you'd be like, oh man, I never thought I'd be doing this, or I never thought this would be me in some ways. Lay it on me.
well, I honestly think the answer might be the heckling, right? Like where I just like the first time I'm like, what am I doing? You know? And I know why I did it for all of the reasons I said, but that was probably the moment where I'm like, I hope I don't become somebody I don't want to become. But in
Did you
general,
see any risk of that?
no,
thus far?
I mean, look, I think there's always a risk of that if you're being honest with yourself, but I do think that there's certain personality traits I have that maybe make it less likely. I'm not like really a guy who's like, oh, I'm going to be a part of this club and not tell you what I think, right? So, I think I think that would be kind of a specific. I would say in general, it's not. Oh, I got a good one. I mean, like scrums. Can we talk about scrums? Like media
here we go.
scrums?
Yeah.
Have you had to do any?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about them.
Yeah, with like two journalists. I mean, does it count as a scrum?
No.
there
Many,
more than
many,
Pierre?
many. So
I have no idea. I'm going to show up for him now.
before QP, like people are outside West Block. Like I don't know, there'd be a few. Like let's call it half a dozen to a little more, less than a dozen might be there. There's a couple in the door. They might try to grab you for a question on the way in. Maybe you blow past them. Caucus is where there's just a ton. Like they line up and there's like 20 plus people. They're all just kind of like shouting questions at you as you walk down a hall from just to get to the caucus meeting. And mostly you just walk by, but every now and then I'll like stop and I'll talk about it. And then
Have you been getting any guidance when you can stop, how you can stop, or is
nope.
it pretty? No.
This is part of like the whole like just kind of figure it out as you go. And despite what you might have heard, the Liberal Party at least doesn't really police those things very strongly.
Interesting.
If at all.
I figured they would.
No. But like, what a way to do it. I actually kind of usually want to stop every time, but almost definitionally, I'm on my way somewhere. Like, I'm probably going at that time because that's exactly the amount of time I need in order to get the things done when I get to the other side. And so I always feel like you guys are like so eager for these questions. Like, why don't you just email my office? Like, I don't think I've turned down a media request. Like, why are we doing it this way? Like, why do we do it in this just like totally wild fashion that is just sort of designed to make it look like we're all pricks having to walk by you all? Because we got places to go. We got stuff to do, like just.
Are you eating a cookie?
I was not eating a cookie.
Okay.
It's an
That's
Alberta
good. That's a good
reference,
sign.
But there was like
Yeah.
the other day, like the last caucus meeting, I was walking by and I answered some question about Bill C5, some question about like the authorities and all that. It was in the Toronto Star. They mentioned it. But like then I'm walking by and there's another question shouted at me about like, what do you think about Danielle Smith's government bringing in charges for COVID vaccines? And I was thinking, I really want to answer that question. I have some thoughts on that question. I don't have time. I'm already late because I stopped to talk to those people. And so it kind of sucks. It's like, just call my office. Like that was a question just for me from one journalist. Just call my office. Happy to answer at a later point.
Well, that seems like an invitation now to the media to call you.
Yeah, it is kind of.
And you're going to have to keep your 100% answer rate.
I know, right? I'm not even sure it's 100%. I try to answer, but yeah.
Yeah,
Carter, that was my final question. As the minister, like I said, you get the final.
Well, my question to you is, why did you feel like we had to put ice cream on pancakes for the pancake breakfast?
That's
Why
a great question.
why was that such a make or break thing?
Me will
for
tell
you?
people when this thing is too. Just so.
Yeah, we probably should tell
You
them.
know, it is a really good question. It is one of those things that you have to kind of make peace with, that you're trading external voice for internal voice. And so, there's a party line, and the deal is now you get to raise in caucus and you get to talk to the prime minister and the ministers and you directly get to influence policy, but you're part of a team. And so at the end of the day, you hang with that team. And so it does change the dynamic a bit as you go along.
That was fascinating answer to some question.
Can you time? I bet he was 35. He's
I
perfected.
I have a quick question
He's
about
perfected it.
the ice cream.
I felt confused, gaslit, and then angry.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Your Stampede breakfast is on Sunday. It is at the.
I think he's finding out for the first time. Are you telling him this?
The Commons. What was it called? Calgary Commons at the University District Park. Something like that. And it's going to be a humdinger. People should come, and they can ask you questions that you'll answer with 35-second answers. That'd be pretty fun, hey?
So, yeah, the first caucus meeting is interesting because you vote on all of the reforms.
So anyways, this is a good
that's
show.
a wrap on
That's a
episode
wrap.
1 of the Ministry of Podcasts. My name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, the Member of Parliament from Calgary Confederation, Cory Hogan, the Minister, Stephen Carter, and, of course, our sponsor, Flair Airlines, the official Ministry of Transport.
Our sponsor.
We shall see you next time.
Your sponsor. I don't even have this. This is not my show anymore.
You got paid. I feel no guilt whatsoever. You just got what I assume is a very large paycheck. Just today.
I did.
Today.
I did
Just
because
today.
it was like
Just today.
2 months of pay.
You should be paying us.
That's a
okay.
great point.
Yeah, that's true. Good.
All right.